The quiet hum of my laptop woke me at 3 a.m. An unmarked video file was open, showing me sleeping peacefully in my bed. As I watched myself turn over, a shadow moved across the wall behind me. That's when I realized I wasn't alone that night. Before you hit play, make sure your doors are locked and your cameras are off. What you're about to see happened to me just last week, and I'm still not sure I'm safe. Subscribe now if you want to know when I post updates about what's happening in my apartment. I never thought I'd be the person who jumps at shadows or checks under the bed at night, but that was before I found those videos, before everything changed. I should probably start at the beginning. 3 months ago, I left behind a 5-year relationship that had slowly transformed from love to control to something I couldn't recognize anymore. Jamie wasn't physically abusive, but the constant monitoring, the questioning, the subtle accusations, they wore me down until I barely recognized myself. The day I finally gathered the courage to leave was both terrifying and liberating. I packed what I could fit in my car and drove until I found this place. A renovated loft in an old industrial building on the edge of town. High ceilings, exposed brick, and most importantly, no shared history. As a freelance graphic designer, I can work from anywhere with decent internet. That's become both a blessing and a curse. I wake up, make coffee, and migrate the 15 steps from my bed to my desk. Sometimes days pass without me speaking to another human being face to face. My clients exist as email addresses and video calls. My friends, what's left of them after Jamie's systematic isolation, have learned not to expect much from me these days. Alex needs space, they say. They're not wrong. The first thing I did when I moved in was install a comprehensive security system. Cameras at every entrance, motion sensors, smart locks, probably overkill, but it helps me sleep at night, or it did until about 2 weeks ago. That's when things started feeling off. Nothing dramatic at first. My coffee mug on the wrong side of the sink. My laptop closed when I was certain I'd left it open. The bathroom door slightly ajar when I always keep it shut. I started keeping notes, trying to convince myself I was just being paranoid. But then came the sounds, subtle at first, like the gentle shifting of weight on old floorboards. Always at night, always when I was trying to fall asleep. I'd get up, check the security footage. Nothing. Every entrance secure, no movement detected. That's when I downloaded the sleep tracking app. It was supposed to help with my insomnia, recording any sounds during the night, with an option to capture video. See what's disturbing your sleep, the description promised. I didn't realize how literal that would turn out to be. I set it up on my nightstand, pointing toward my bed, and tried to forget about it. Last night, I finally slept soundly for the first time in weeks. No strange noises, no sense of being watched. I should have known that silence was just the calm before the storm. This morning, I opened my laptop to find a video file I never created. A video of me sleeping peacefully in my bed, from an angle my phone couldn't possibly have captured. I sat frozen at my desk, staring at my screen. The video file had no name, just a string of numbers and letters that looked like some kind of code. My hands trembled as I clicked play again. There I was, sound asleep in my bed, the covers rising and falling with each breath. But the angle, it was all wrong. My sleep app would have recorded from my nightstand, showing a side profile of me sleeping. This footage was from the foot of my bed, slightly elevated, as if someone had stood there holding a camera. I checked my security system immediately. No breaches, no alerts, nothing unusual on any of the camera feeds. I even checked the window locks manually, running my fingers along each seal, finding everything intact. How was this possible? I studied the video more carefully, looking for any signs of editing or manipulation. That's when I noticed it, a subtle movement in the darkest corner of my room. I increased the brightness on my editing software, enhanced the contrast, and there it was, a vague silhouette, barely distinguishable from the shadows, but unmistakably person-shaped. Standing, watching, completely still except for what looked like a slight tilt of the head. My heart hammered against my ribs as I fumbled for my phone and called the police. They arrived 40 minutes later. 2 officers who walked through my apartment with flashlights and bored expressions. They checked the locks, the windows, the security system, found nothing. One of them, an older guy with tired eyes, suggested it might be some kind of glitch in my sleep app, maybe footage from someone else's account that got mixed up with mine. The younger officer looked at me with thinly veiled skepticism when I showed him the enhanced footage. Could be a shadow from headlights outside, he offered, or maybe the curtain moving from the vent. They left me with a case number and a recommendation to change my passwords. I called my friend Mia next. She's been my rock since the breakup with Jamie. She listened as I rambled about the video, my voice cracking. "I'll come over," she said immediately. An hour later, we sat at my kitchen table while she examined the footage on my laptop. "Could someone have hacked your system?" she asked, her face pale in the blue light of the screen. "Or maybe it's some kind of targeted prank." I hadn't considered that. "Who would do that?" Mia hesitated. "Has Jamie tried to contact you recently?" The question hit me like ice water. I hadn't heard from my ex in months, not since the final restraining order was approved. "No," I said firmly. "And besides, Jamie isn't tech-savvy enough for something like this." By the time Mia left, we'd convinced ourselves it must be some bizarre technical error, maybe footage from the building's security system that had somehow crossed with my sleep app. A glitch, a coincidence, nothing more. That's what I told myself as I lay awake that night. Lights on, eyes fixed on that same dark corner. And that's what I still wanted to believe the next morning when I found another video waiting for me. This time, the figure had moved closer to my bed. And this time, I could almost make out a face in the shadows, a face that seemed to be smiling. After finding the second video, I knew I couldn't just sit around waiting for answers. I became obsessed with uncovering the truth. I ordered additional security cameras, high-definition ones with night vision and motion detection, and installed them in every corner of my apartment. I set up a separate computer dedicated solely to monitoring the feeds, running 24/7. If someone or something was getting into my space, I was going to catch them. I stopped sleeping in my bed altogether. Instead, I set up a makeshift monitoring station on my couch, surrounded by energy drinks and coffee mugs, determined to stay awake through the night. I'd doze off for 20-minute stretches, jerking awake at the slightest sound, eyes immediately darting to the screens. Nothing. Always nothing on the cameras. Yet every morning, like clockwork, a new video would appear on my desktop, each one showing me asleep, even on nights when I swore I hadn't closed my eyes for more than a few minutes. And in each video, the figure moved closer. First at the corner, then by my dresser, then at the foot of my bed. In the latest one, it stood directly next to my pillow, leaning slightly forward as if studying my face. Despite the multiple camera angles I now had, none of my security footage showed anyone entering my apartment or standing by my bed. The videos were appearing out of nowhere. I started researching the building's history, spending hours in the local library and online archives. What I discovered sent ice through my veins. 10 years ago, a woman named Claire Emmett had disappeared from the apartment directly below mine. The case was never solved. The last person to see her was her neighbor, who reported hearing scratching sounds coming from inside Claire's walls the night before she vanished. When I approached my building manager, Mr. Reeves, about the building's history, his reaction was strange. He became immediately defensive, insisting the Claire Emmett story was just urban legend nonsense, and that I shouldn't go spreading rumors that could hurt property values. When I pressed him about previous tenants in my specific unit, he claimed the records were lost in a system upgrade. His eyes never met mine during the entire conversation. That night, unable to sleep again, I found myself staring at my closet door. Had it always been slightly ajar like that? I approached it cautiously, pulled it completely open, and shined my flashlight inside. Nothing but my clothes and shoes. But something compelled me to check more thoroughly. I pushed aside the hanging garments and examined the back wall. That's when I noticed them, faint markings scratched into the paint. Not random scratches, but deliberate symbols, circles within circles, strange angular lines, and what looked like letters from an alphabet I didn't recognize. I photographed the symbols and spent hours cross-referencing them with various ancient scripts and occult symbols online. Nothing matched exactly, but some bore resemblance to old protection sigils, marks meant to ward off malevolent entities or create boundaries between worlds. While deep in this research rabbit hole, an email notification popped up on my screen. It was from a real estate database I'd subscribed to, with information about my building's history. Before the conversion to apartments, this place had been a research facility in the 1970s. The document mentioned experiments in perception across temporal planes and visual documentation of parallel consciousness. The facility had been abruptly shut down following what was only described as a containment incident that resulted in 3 deaths. As I read these words, my newest camera, the one facing my bed from above, suddenly went offline. When I checked my monitoring station, all screens showed static except one. On that screen was a crystal clear image of myself, sitting exactly where I was now, but looking directly into the camera with a horrified expression I didn't recognize. And behind that other version of myself stood the figure from my sleep videos, its hand now resting on my shoulder. After seeing that image, I made a desperate plan. I was going to stay completely awake all night, no matter what. I filled my bathroom sink with ice water to splash my face whenever drowsiness crept in. I set alarms on my phone to go off every 15 minutes. I even taped my eyelids with small strips of medical tape to make it physically difficult to close my eyes fully. Nothing was going to make me sleep tonight. The hours crawled by, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. My eyes burned. My thoughts became foggy. I kept splashing cold water on my face, pacing, doing jumping jacks, anything to keep the exhaustion at bay. But somewhere between 4 and 5 a.m., despite everything, I must have fallen asleep. I woke with a jolt to sunlight streaming through my windows. My heart sank as I checked my laptop. There it was, a new video file. With trembling fingers, I clicked play. The footage showed me asleep on the couch, exactly where I had been. But this time, the figure wasn't simply standing nearby. It was bent over me, its face just inches from mine. So close I should have felt its breath. As I watched in horror, it slowly turned to face the camera, and for the first time, I could see its features clearly. I screamed and slammed my laptop shut. Out of desperate inspiration, I downloaded specialized audio software and applied it to the earlier videos. The program could detect and amplify sounds beyond normal human hearing range. I held my breath as I played the enhanced audio. There were voices, whispers at first, then clearer. She doesn't know. Not yet aligned. Almost time. That's when everything clicked into place. These weren't recordings of past events. They were live feeds from another reality, another timeline where something had gone very differently in my life. The research facility's experiments hadn't failed. They'd succeeded too well, thinning the boundaries between parallel dimensions. In that other timeline, I never escaped Jamie. The scratch symbols were attempts to communicate, warnings from another version of myself trying to break through. The figure watching me sleep wasn't some ghost or intruder. It was Jamie, still obsessively monitoring me in that reality. And now somehow, the barriers between our dimensions were dissolving. As this realization hit me, every electronic device in my apartment activated simultaneously. Screens flashing, speakers emitting high-pitched tones. On my security monitor, I watched in terror as the air in my bedroom began to ripple like water, a hand pushing through from somewhere else. A hand I recognized all too well. The two realities were colliding, and Jamie was coming through. If you've made it this far, you're now part of this. Check your own devices tonight. You might be surprised what's watching you sleep. Hit the like button if you want me to share the strange symbols I found, and subscribe so you'll know immediately if another video appears. Trust me, I don't think this is over.